Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hello Again with me, Isabelle Broom. And today I am joined by Cesca Major, aka Rosie Blake, aka CD Major, woman of many talents and books. Thank you for joining us today, Cesca. How are you?
Oh, I'm very well, thank you. I'm in my writing shed. I've got my 4-year-old running around outside playing some game, and yeah, I'm just nice to chat to you.
Excellent. Now, as I mentioned, you're one of these multi-talented authors writing cross genre. So I wondered if you could tell us a bit about your author identities and the kind of books that those people write.
Yes, thank you very much for saying it's multi-talented. I think it was almost falling into it by accident because I have always had a slight split personality, and particularly with my reading as well. I was a history teacher and had that sort of slightly sensible streak to myself. I read history at university, loved reading sort of all the gritty true stories, all the ordinary people living in extraordinary times. But equally, I was also a TV presenter and an actress, and I loved reading and writing comedy, and I wrote a pantomime at my university and used to perform sort of whenever I acted. I was always given the comic role. I always wanted to be the really serious, weeping actress. I was always given the clown, basically. So I started out in my career writing romantic comedies. I think as a lot of us do, we start with sort of bad dating disasters, and we read Bridget Jones, we read Marion Keyes, and we read all these wonderful books, growing up. And I started writing them, and then sort of put them in a drawer and got obsessed with a true historical story that I was teaching, and wrote something called The Silent Hours, which was my debut, which you very kindly read. And that was a sort of a really devastating true story, and it just they didn't mash together. That I knew immediately I had to be pseudonyms because it was so sad and devastating and true, and I was writing frothy, lovely, fun, unashamedly silly stuff as well. So Rosie Blake was born. So Rosie Blake writes very uplifting fiction, very feel good, hopefully laugh out loud. And they tend to be a bit more emotional. I suppose the older I've got, the more emotional they've become. Yeah. And Cesca Major, or CD Major, writes very dark, normally, always based on a true story. His suspense. My latest is set in a lunatic asylum, and it's very dark. It's a thriller. And yeah, that's how the personas came about. It just made obvious sense to separate everything.
Don't know how you do it, honestly.
I love it.
Do you find that when you're writing a darker book that your mood is slightly darker? Is your mood affected by what you're writing?
Normally not. And actually, normally I'm very excited about leaving that genre because I've had enough. And I think that's probably why I tend to not have too many breaks. I can't because I have deadlines, but I don't have big, long breaks. And I think that's probably because it feels like a break, because I finish a thriller or something dark and I'm actually craving. So I'm at this stage right now, I'm finishing the edits for my second Amazon thriller. And I am really excited about my next Rosie Blake book. And it's great because it just means that I'll have a few days off and then I'll want to dive back in. So they do feel really separate. Yeah, after a while, the dark stuff, there is something about the research that, of course, does affect you because you are reading. This one particularly is horribly tragic. It's about the death of loads of dogs that all leap off the bridge to their death, and it's whether they commit suicide. I'm so sorry, Izzy, I know. And it's a ghost story, and it's all about thin places. It's all about these strange, peculiar places in around the country where the heaven and earth meet, and so creepy supernatural things happen. And you just get swept up in it, and it gets a bit weird. And then it's lovely, joyful, and you can go off and have a break and think about emotions and friendships and family and love, and it's more escapist, and they're definitely very different moods. But I don't get too depressed, but I do get a bit sick of reading sad stories. So they happen to real people.
You've nailed the balance. And I remember you telling me the sort of premise, the backstory behind the thin places, sorry. And getting goosebumps like all over my body and just being like, oh my God, write that book immediately because I want to read it, even though it's going to just probably traumatize me for life, like all the best books do. Either emotionally or psychologically have some sort of damaging effect on you, long lasting effect, which is hilarious.
I think that's it, that it's very easy. It's very easy with a Cesca Major book. It's always that story, that the true story gives me chills. And that's when I know that I've got to write, I've got to fictionalize it, and I also quite like the fact that it shines a light on something strange. And, there's so many weird things in the world. And I've always been fascinated by that bit of history. And also I think I have slightly crossed over into, I'm open-minded about people that have ghost stories and people that have otherworldly experiences. And I don't, I quite like exploring that in fiction, that feeling of that sort of, that crossover.
And also it keeps it, original and fresh, because it can be quite difficult actually to be completely original when you're writing books in such, we both work in markets that are massively saturated by amazing books, lots of amazing books. And it is hard to kind of carve out a little niche that's your own. And I think you're really doing that with the CG Major massively, which is great.
Thank you.
And exciting.
Yeah, thank you. I think you're right that I think you're lucky if your writing falls into a genre, because you can sell it. And I'm teaching creative writing at the moment. It's the one thing I'm trying to help a lot of early writers do, is they have loads of ideas, and I'm trying to say, actually, if you want to sell, then you do need to consider genre, unless you don't want to be published, because it is vital. But you're so right that you are drawn to people that are trying to do something different. And as we both read loads, or normally I read loads, I hardly read anything, and you want that little twist, that little something different, to elevate it into something you haven't read before. And it's so exciting, when you do come across that. So I hope so.
Do you have a sort of zone that you get into? Do you get into a writing zone? Do you have any rituals, or do you have to be in a particular place? Anything like that? Just something quiet will do, right?
Away from my children. Yeah, that's a little ritual, binning my children off to other people. I have 3 young children, a 4-year-old and twin girls, as you know, because you are godparent to one. I have a shed. This shed and particularly in lockdown, has been an absolute haven of calm. It's so nice. You leave the house and you just leave all of that behind. But no, not particularly. I don't have a set, soundtrack, or I do listen to a bit of classical music, but I have selective. I can't really hear music when I'm writing, so it's almost pointless playing. But no, it's mostly having to write when. Now I'm in a kid's routine. It's knowing that I only have this amount of time, and I do struggle with that yesterday I had to stop. I was losing my nanny, she was out the door, and there are 3 kids that need feeding and putting to bed, and I was just like, I really want to just sit at my desk and not deal with my family right now. But it's tough, and you can't wait around for the muse in that situation. You just have to go, this is the time I have. And inevitably, like most writers, you get into your groove just 45 minutes before you need to go anywhere. You sort of really start working. But yeah, I used to work around a full-time job. I used to be a teacher, and I think what I've discovered is, you can do it. You can do it around anything. You can find the time if you're determined enough. And actually, if you have a large amount of time, that doesn't necessarily mean that you end up writing a lot more. And actually you end up sometimes getting quite depressed because you do waste that time, and it can be quite demotivating if you have days in a trot where you haven't written and you're feeling a bit fed up. And I think then you actually need to get busy. You need to go and do some gardening, or go on a walk, or go and see a friend. And I think COVID lockdown's been really hard for that. We're so bored of the same 4 walls. And I think that really has such a damaging effect on creativity and imagination, because you're just like, I don't have any ideas about anything, everything's depressing, so I don't want to, your imagination's so stunted at the moment. Definitely. You're not getting, even I get it from just walking down into my village and going into the cafe and chatting away, and just looking at the river, and it's a lot of that joy has been removed. So I think it's hard at the moment to write. I think a lot of writers are finding it very hard to write.
Yeah, no, I would agree.
Wow, sorry, that took a turn.
No, I think you're right. I think sometimes people like not having enough time. For me, I started out like you, working full time and trying to write around that, full working day. And actually, I
Yeah.
enjoyed that process more in a way, because it was like 2 hours that I'd carved out, and I was like, right, this is my writing time. This is the highlight of my day every day. And when you
Yeah, you used
turn
to
that
write in
on
lunch
its head,
breaks, didn't you? You used to write in like literally grab. Like I remember you doing shifts as a
yeah,
journalist and writing. Yeah, amazing.
yeah, and just, but I felt like I had momentum then, and it kept me going. Whereas when I
Yeah,
have a full day and I know all I have to do is write, and it's just me, I can do it like, when we go on our writing retreats. I think it's great because we're all writing, and we're there supporting each other, and we all just get on with it, which is great. But when it's just you on your own and you've got the day stretched in your head, you know, I find I need structure. Actually, I need to
yeah,
sort of break the day up into bits and have
yeah.
like writing out here and writing out there around other stuff.
Yeah, I definitely think that would be advice for definitely any writer, is that exactly that you give yourself a set writing time and then stop and go
Yeah,
and do something else, then give yourself another set writing time, because there is nothing more depressing, like you say, than just watching the clock run down.
yeah.
And you might as well have taken the morning off and
I
had
quite
done
like
something lovely.
just stopping in the middle of a conversation between two characters, like
Yeah.
something that I'm desperate to get back to. Because I think if you
Mm.
write a chapter, then you don't have like, and you're not sure how you're going to start the next one. That scares you
Yeah.
off coming back to the page. Whereas if you leave it in the middle of some really big pivotal scene, you think about it all day, and then you come back to it, and you're like hungry to get back
Well, I
in
think that's
and
it.
kind of.
I often, when I do finish at the end of a chapter, what I also do is I deliberately don't correct it. So at least if I have finished a chapter, I don't tinker with it, and then I go in, then I come back and fix it up, and at least then I'm back in. But you're right. I think that's a great shout, just to leave a paragraph right in the middle. So it's like, well, there you go. You carry on writing from there.
Sometimes it's a week though, and I'm like, God, that poor girl, she's been straddled on the back of that moped, like going uphill for a week. She's gonna have a really sore ass at the end of it. So I actually picture them where they are, frozen in time. It's such a weird
That's
thing.
hilarious. Do you
I know, just
really?
like
Oh my
that.
goodness. I don't. No, I don't do that.
So let's talk a bit more about the other girl, because that comes out
Yeah.
very, very soon. And
I've got the audio book. It's
Oh,
very exciting.
that is
And it's got a really
I've never
cool
sent one of
book.
those.
I don't know whether you can see it. It's got Mad, Bad, or Just Misunderstood on
Oh,
the back.
very good.
Mad, Bad, or
Byron-esque.
Just
I like that.
yeah, it's so exciting. I'm getting this book has been such a passion project, as you know, and I worked on it. Really, it's been years in the making, and it was a bit cross genre, so it was a bit risky, and just chuffed. And it's about to come out September the 1st, paperback, ebook, audiobook. And the audiobook's awesome. I think it's only about £4, the audiobook, and it's read by Catherine Littrell, who's from Australia, because it's all set in New Zealand.
Cool.
And she's great, because audiobooks can be a mixed bag, I think, but her narration's really smooth and fast, and she's great.
Tell us about the story, the true story that captured your imagination.
So it was pretty grim, I have to say. I always wanted to write about a lunatic asylum, mostly with a female-only lunatic asylum. Always, as a history teacher, obsessed with the fact that you can get rid of your women in these places. Bad marriages, difficult wife, awkward sister or daughter that just doesn't fit in the family. Maybe someone quite depressive by nature or melancholic, who can be tagged as mad. So I've always had it in the back of my mind. It's just it's a great setting for any sort of dark book. And just getting that injustice across. And I discovered that in New Zealand, there's an enormous asylum, as in the biggest building in the country for years. And there was a devastating fire that happened right in the middle of actually World War II. So they had staff shortages, and 37 women died in one night, and there were only 2 survivors. And I just started to think about, being a survivor of that kind of night. And who might be involved in that, and it really, the story grew from that. And then I just started to consider why someone would be in an asylum, and I wanted them to be in there really having lived in there, so totally institutionalized. So I had my character who was sort of in her very early 20s, and she'd been there since she was about 5 or 6 years old. And I thought, well, why would a child be put there? And this idea didn't come for about a year. And it just suddenly, I thought, what if she was saying crazy stuff that she couldn't possibly know about? And I read a lot about past life memories, children that have past life memories. And I loved the idea that she had these very religious parents, very strict religious parents, who just were very disturbed by her coming out with very adult language, adult stories, talking about another life. And thus the other girl was born. But yeah, so it's a mishmash of a book, but the moment I had that idea, that was it. I was off. Just this concept of, is it true, is it not, is she mad, is she not, should she be there, should she not, it's always about, and also, if you treat people like they're mad, do you make them mad? And I don't know whether mad's a bad term, really, but if you do treat people in a certain way, is that self-fulfilling, really?
Definitely.
And so yeah, that's
it's so absorbing and creepy and brilliant. I read it when I was in New Zealand, so
I know.
Yeah, and I've been to Umaru, where sort of the area where it's set, and it's a very atmospheric area of the country as well. Actually, it's not, you sort of think of New Zealand and you think of lakes and rivers and colour, and Umaru is actually very grey, black sand beaches, all these craggy rocks and stuff. So atmospheric for that book to be, whoa, as a wasp setting. Oh God, no.
Well, it's really gutting. It's the first book that I've never been to the place I set it in, which is really against my religion. And I'm gutted. I've never been to New Zealand. I'd love to go. But I did find that really tricky, and I had to do a lot of Google images, and it's still not the same. And I know that probably, you get the richness, but yeah, I can't wait for people who, I'm worried about people reading it.
The thing is, though, it's historical, so the New Zealand you're writing about, you wouldn't be able to see anyway, because it's not the same anymore. So even if you had gone all the way to New Zealand, you would have, it would have been great, and you would have seen some seals, but you wouldn't have been able to travel back in time. So
no, I think that's it. Yeah, you're right, actually, that there is an element of that you're always, if you write anything in even the recent past, you do still have to go, right, what does it physically look like, because it is very different. So very jealous of you on your trip.
We'll go one day. It is good fun. Ooh, when they're making the film of the book, that's when we'll go.
Obviously, when they're making the film of the book. Absolutely. Film rights are available.
It's still available. Get in there. Get in there, Netflix. Come on. We all want Netflix. Netflix is my bae.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Going back to Gin O'Clock Club, which is also out this month. Hold that up for everybody to see.
It's actually an old cover, but yes.
I got a finished copy the other day. It's amazing.
I know, how have you got one and I haven't?
I'm special. Special. I should get it and hold it up. I was wondering if it inspired you to join any clubs, and whether or not you were a big club person when you were younger. Because I was part of the Neighbours fan club. I used to write fan
Were you?
To Todd from Neighbours, Christian Schmidt, who never replied to me, but it didn't stop me writing to him every week for about 5 years. I was obsessed with him.
Yeah, I was quite a joiner. I was quite an appalling child. I was very precocious as a child. You'll be shocked to hear. And I used to form clubs. So I remember forming an art club. I think I thought I was very good at art, so I would run the club. And I was about 11, and I got my friends round, and I set up a still life for them. So I put fruit in a bowl or with a shoe or whatever, and I walked around the room as they drew this still life, like giving them feedback of how they could make it better. I was 11 years old, and I set up an animal club. But I don't really like animals, so I don't know how that happened. I set up an animal club, and then I was just I was a very public school girl in terms of, I went to boarding school and I joined the lacrosse club, and I was always part of the drama, anything to do with drama. I was always in a play. So I suppose I am quite clubby, and I do miss Actually, there's probably, you say club, I think probably that was why I created book camp, the writing retreats we run on. It's a writing club, because I miss the community and the we get so much joy now all year round because we have WhatsApp, but the friendships and the connections and the fun that we've had because of those sort of twice annual meetings are just just so far reaching. I love it when I hear book camp people meeting up with other book camp people and going to each other's launches and reading each other's books, and so I think probably it was missing community. And I used to love drama, and that's the great thing about acting, is you just all descend on a theatre or a film or whatever it is, work on it, and then you never see each other again. You're like best friends for like 5 weeks, and then you never, you're like, oh, I'm going to so keep in touch. You never keep in touch with them.
It's so true. And writing can be quite a singular occupation. I mean, there is a lot of sort of sitting in a room by yourself in your own head. That's why I love our book camp retreats so much, because it reminds you that we're all doing the same thing, and I'm always so inspired to come back, and I enjoy it so much. I think it really keeps me going. Please don't ever stop book camp, please.
Oh, I know. I nearly did. I nearly in my head was like, that's it, Corona's done for us. But I know we're going to do it.
No,
we're going to do it.
I'll wear a
but I think you're right. That's what you get. You get fired up by, and your colleagues, and we're colleagues. We it's so lovely to be able to talk about and not bore people with the intricacies of your job. We've all got it where, as a teacher, I used to bore on to other teachers, but it was interesting to them because we were talking about the same pupils, or we were talking about the same lessons, and with writers it's the same. We could talk for hours about the intricacies of a plot, and would that work, and what could you do? And I'd find that incredibly interesting and helpful to my own writing as well. Definitely. To break down someone else's plot and talk about third person or first, or talk about, should I do XYZ, or what should my branding be, or whatever it is. It's fascinating. So
on that note, because you're one of my champions when it comes to writing advice, I'm going to have to, the wasp, honestly, what's going on? I'm not scared of them, but it's trying to hog the limelight. It's just like, I want to be involved.
Like, I've got a book out. I've got a book out.
Yeah, it's about a misunderstood insect. It looks a bit like a bee, but doesn't make honey. Ooh. Yeah, get over yourself.
Yeah, it's got a whole backstory. You killed my mother last year.
Yeah. I haven't got long to live. Ooh. Yeah, stressful. Anyway, so you're one of my personal champions when it comes to writing advice, and sort of you're the person that pushed me in the direction of craft books like Save the Cat, and things that have really, really helped me structure and made me feel less like I'm sort of wading into quicksand at the start of every novel that I write. And I just wondered, what would be your one sort of vital piece of advice that you would pass on to anyone watching who's thinking of starting a novel?
I think the major one, which I wish people would really listen when we say it, is your first draft is utter shit, but you'll never, ever, ever, ever write a book without it. And you just have to just keep going, because so I'm teaching at the moment at Henley, and we had a 3-month hiatus because of Corona. And it was a bit awkward because they've all come back, my creative writing students, and they've loved the course and they say it's been so helpful. But only one of them only one of them is really into their book. Actually, 2 are into their book. And actually, even then, they're panicking. Oh, it's because basically a book, who said it, that a book is the start of ruining a good idea, basically. It's just, you have this incredible idea. And what you realize as you go through is it's not your idea anymore. But you have to write that draft, because if you don't, you can't sit there with it and go, right, how can I get back to that incredible idea with what I have? How much do I need to cut? Who do I need to bring out? It all happens in the edit. It all happens. Even if you've meticulously plotted, it all happens. It gets better and better and better. But it's really hard to really get that across, I think, to people who have never written a whole book before. It is so intimidating. But I would just say, I reckon a nice, neat little, target word count, 5,000 words a week, 1,000 words a day if you're writing 5 days a week. would be incredible. So halve that if that's intimidating. But I think you've got to give yourself a deadline and just say, I will write this story. I will just run with it. I mean, you know, I do a whole course now on how to write a book, literally. So I've loved it. I've loved doing a course on it. I've got 8 lessons, and I actually keep meaning to do it as an online course. Because I think there's a lot you can do before you write a book. But saying that, there's also other people that, as you know, they just dive in. They run with it. They come up with the story as they go. Mm-hmm. I'm not one of them. You know, I'm just not. But yeah, I think people, it's just all talk, isn't it? And it's just, you've got to get it down. And it's horrible, you know, will be horrible. The characters will be 2-dimensional. The settings will be flat. The dialogue will be a bit rubbish. And if it is, you just just might make a note, you know, it's rubbish, I'll fix it, you know, and
I always love
move on.
When I go back through.
It's very hard. I mean, I don't know about you, but
put something good here about some.
I've just handed an edit last night, and I've still got an asterisk just saying something better. You know, because I know it's bad, but it will remind me I've got to fix that before the end. But I think, I mean, you know this, if you look at how long it takes you now to write a book, I mean, we have the odd book that really does throw a spanner in the works, which I've just had, where it still takes you longer than it should. But on the whole, if you look back at, you know, how long it took you for that first one and how long now, it's just, you know, you do get quicker. You do know what won't make the cut. You do know that you need to stick within your genre and stop writing. You know, I remember The Silent Hours had a comedy scene with a parrot. This is like a World War II book. I love a parrot. Well, the parrot survived, and I put it in a Rosie Blake book where it should have been all along. Yeah. But I remember my agent reading this like really devastating true story and going, what's with the parrot scene? Like that's weird. And I just would never, you know, I never would put that in a CD Major book now, like a comedy parrot relief in the middle of a book. But that's what you learn. You learn that. You know, that's something you just
parrot survived to be in another story, because the parrot in The Hooga Holiday is one of the great moments of fiction of the last 5 years. So make sure you get a copy of that, everybody, just for the parrot, if nothing else. Oh my God. It's amazing. It's an incredible book anyway, but yeah.
I mean,
because of the parrot.
It is one of my favourite bits of this book, the talking parrot. I mean, but no, I think that's it. That it's your first book. It's going to be a mishmash. It's going to be dreadful, and you just need to write something, and you need to get to the end of the story, and then look what you've got. Have you got 50,000 words? Have you got 150,000 words? Have you got a story? Has it changed? You know, and it's such a massive bit of writing advice, but you know, I think it's that it's going to be bad is really something you have to make your peace with. And that's not to be that it will be bad at the end, but it will be bad. Just
get the story down, tell yourself the story, and then the second draft, tell it to someone else. That's what I always say. Just do it for you first, do it for others second.
Yeah, and I think that is it. But yes, but I can see why, you know, people carry around these book ideas for years, and you don't want to ruin your idea, and you will.
Yeah, it will never be what you think it will be in the beginning, ever. So just let that go.
I think that's it. And it is hard to make your peace, because I think we would all, even now, you know, the other girl's coming out, and I'm so excited, it's been through 1 million edits. And I know that if I read it again, I would tinker with it, because you do, you will. You know, you'll suddenly, like, you'll get a review that will say something quite interesting and annoyingly incisive, and you'll go, oh, I could have done that. And that's just the nature of it. And you've got to make your peace with that it's never quite finished. And you will never, even though you love other people's books and you think they're finished, you know, I could gush away about Hello Again. You cringe at your own. Your own. I think, you know, it's just, oh no, but you're always apologetic, and you always, you know, you just, oh, but I could have done that, you know, and but don't worry if you get bored. And
we have to stop doing that.
I know,
but mustn't do that.
But then maybe that's actually why you keep writing, because in a way, if you do become incredibly arrogant about your own work and, oh, I'm so marvelous, maybe you've done it, you know, and the challenge is over. And I think for me, you know, continually with Rosie Blake, I'm desperate to write like the seminal like book that will just have everybody laughing and crying, and you know, with CD Major, I want the creepiest, you know, darker, you know, you're always going, how can I just get better and better, and I think that's great. I think that's what drives us to write, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, whatever it is, books.
I could talk to you all day, but I'm conscious of time and people's tea breaks.
Yes.
So I'm going to move on to the quick fire. Here's my coconut shell, Umbungo.
Lovely.
I call him Umbungo from the pet shop, not the jungle. He did have bird feed in him, but that's gone. All right, we'll do 3 of these.
Okay, I'm quite nervous about it.
Ready? Okay. Number 1. It's a small one. Ooh. If anyone watching has yet to read any of your books, which should they start with and why?
Oh, that's so hard. It's like,
it's hard.
Favorite baby. Obviously, I think you have to start with The Other Girl, because it's mad. And it was such a crazy idea. It's such a mishmash of things, and yeah, that's where I think I'd foist it on anyone.
Excellent. Right. Question 2 is one life mantra that you live by.
I just no one will care. Like, you care too much. No one else notices, basically. I mean, you just complimented me on my lockdown haircut that I think is horrific. And I did, and you were like, oh, your hair looks nice. No one, you know, just let it go. No one cares. You think about it way too much, you know, and no one else is wandering around judging you. And if they are, why do you want to be their mate? You know.
True. Final one. Ready? Oh no, we've done that one. It was writing rituals. Done that one. Damn it. Final one.
I'm feeling it.
Oh, best gift you've ever received.
Oh gosh.
Other than your children, obviously. a gift from nature and life.
I could think of, isn't it awful that I immediately could think of the worst gift, which was last year's wedding anniversary, where Ben gave me a miniature wooden bench and basically went, one day I'll make you that for real. Like, where's my bench? Like, what the?
It's a bench.
Oh god, best gift. I'm not into stuff, like, as in my little sister loves stuff. It always makes me laugh. She's like always got the best gadgets and all that. Yeah, the best gift is always like the time. Like, I love a theatre ticket, a show, like someone's actually bothered to go, I think Cesca would love this show, so I'm going to send her to this, normally hopefully with a friend. But yeah, isn't that awful? I can't really think immediately of the best gift that anyone's ever given me.
Your ability to write wonderful books. There you go. That's a pretty good gift. Another life gift.
No, and now when you have kids, it's time. If someone could get, I know what I will want as a gift, which I keep heavily now just dropping in every conversation with anyone. I want a night off. I want someone to just go, you know what, Cesca, I bought you a hotel. I don't even care if my husband comes. I bought you a hotel and I've dealt with your kids. And you can have a lie-in. And I think most mothers that's all we want, is like, please, just someone else sort out the logistics of my life. I think all women want it, actually. Just someone to come along and go, do you know what? I've got your life. You go away and sleep and have a bath. And you don't have to think about, have you stocked up for breakfast? Have you packed a little packed lunch? Oh gosh, have you told them that Ness needs to wear her glasses at that time? And oh God, the bond, all of that. It's just, I just don't want to do it for 24 hours. I don't want to do it. That would be an amazing gift. But I keep saying it out loud to my husband. And I'm like, that would be a great gift, and I'm 40 next year.
Yes. Don't make me a bench. Just send me away.
Don't make me a bench. Don't make me this bench. Oh, it's so funny, honestly.
I love the bench. I'm going to demand to see it next time I see you. Which will hopefully.
So annoyingly as well. So the writing shed used to be his workshop. And so I know that to get the bench, he's going to be like, I really need somewhere to make the bench. I'm like, no.
Don't let him back in there. It's yours.
Absolutely. He is barred. Yeah, like, poor guy, because he's so good at work. It's awful, actually. I quite literally booted him out of his man shed. But he's a very, very nice person. So he
is a nice person. He's a vet. All the best people.
He's a vet. He saves animals. He's dreamy. He's got good legs. What more can you want?
Getting jealous now. Send him around to deal with my wasp.
He was actually, no, he's really wussy about insects. I always get him to do spiders, and I always pull Ben, seriously, you know, you're a vet and you should be dealing with this. I should not be dealing with this. This is not, if there was like a broken book, I could save it, but it's not a book. It's, you know, to take the spider away. And he's really wet with spiders. Anyway.
Oh dear. Ruined it. You're doing so well there. Right.
So you've got to have a floor.
So order The Other Girl, order The Gin O'Clock Club, get a copy of The Hygge Holiday and read about the talking parrot. Please read The Silent Hours, because it's one of the best, most wonderful books I've ever read. And follow Cesca/Rosie Blake on her social handles too, please, to find out all about exciting creative writing courses and more excitement from the world of Cesca. Thank you so much for coming and chatting to us. And
it's been so nice.
I'll see everybody next week. If you haven't already, do buy my book. And if you have read it, please leave a review. That's all I'll say. That matter.
Oh, I must review it. Have I reviewed it? I must review it. No, I have reviewed it. I'm all over that. It's great.
You got that subtle hint. Well done. Right. Goodbye, everybody. See you next week. Bye.